Almost Perfect podcast. Welcome to the Almost Perfect podcast, a celebration of fuck-ups, failures, and falling flat on your face. This is a podcast that believes you can learn from experience, but that experience doesn't have to be your own. Hi, I'm Bob Perfect, and I'm a functional fuck-up. Let's learn from somebody else's mistakes. And today we are learning from Olivia Mortimer. Now, Olivia is a photographer and a filmmaker who has had her work featured in Times Square. Now, that's obviously pretty incredible, but what's more incredible is the story of how it all came together. Oddly enough, Olivia actually failed photography at varsity, but you'll hear about that in just a little bit. You'll hear about how serendipity has played a role in her life. We talk about mindfulness, we talk about therapy, we talk about growing up, going to gigs and taking photos, basically, coming of age in the scene and all of that, and how it has influenced her work. So you're going to hear about all of that in just a little bit. Of course, I need to let you know that this podcast is brought to you by you, which means you can support it by going to patreon.com/almostperfect. Let's go to almostperfect.co.za. Without further ado, here comes the Almost Perfect podcast with Olivia Mortimer. So how are you living, Olivia?
I'm good. As good as someone can be living 2 years into a pandemic. Pretty good. Can't complain.
I'm stoked to hear that. Like, to actually hear an I'm good. People who listen to the podcast regularly would have mostly been hearing, yeah, I'm okay. Like, surviving. So it's nice to finally hear someone actually be like, I'm good. So what's so good about things for you at the moment?
It's funny because I always tell a lot of people, they'll ask me, "How are you?" And I'm like, "Good, nothing to complain about." And then I'll add, I mean, there is stuff I can complain about, but I won't. So maybe I'm just placebo affecting myself, where I just tell myself I'm good, and then things will be good. You know what I mean? I think it's one of those situations.
I mean, I'm with you there. Life is a matter of perspective.
Completely. I mean, it's easy for me to sit and think of everything I don't have, but I think as people, we need to start appreciating what we do have and living in the now. I'm very much into mindfulness since I've discovered. I was like, oh, mindfulness is quite
I
powerful in the
fucking
sense that,
I
you know what I
hate the
mean? Like,
word. I love the concept.
yes, the word very in line with my chakras and like kombucha and like that sense. I
Yeah.
get you. But the concept is great. Like, it's the fact of like appreciating and being grateful for what you do have around you, because I think we're also used to what's the next best thing. You know what I mean? Like, okay, cool, I got this cool gig, but what's the next one? And is it going to be bigger? Is the brand going to be bigger? Is the budget going to be bigger? Am I going to be paid more? You know what I mean? Instead of just being like, wow, I get to do what I love for a living. This is wild. This is crazy. So I think instead of me trying to search for the next best thing or comparing myself to other creatives, which is also easy to get into this whole thing of comparing yourself, I just like to placebo myself and say, I'm good. I'm great.
It seems like we're in a pretty similar position, to be completely honest with you, because I've actually very much, like, in the last 2 years, learned to, temper my ambitions and learn to really value, what I've got and what I've done and, the things that I do have, instead of constantly focusing on that next thing, because so much of my
Mhm.
life in my 20s was, it was chaotic as fuck, and it was, oh my god, I loved, I had such a good, like, 20s in a lot of ways, but it did, like, feel, looking back, like I was always just like, looking forward to the next thing, looking forward to, what can I do next? What can I create next? What event can I put on next? Like all those sorts of things, instead of like especially putting on events, like on the night, like never getting to really enjoy what we had created, like always just being stressed about, oh, I've got to pay this guy, I've got to do this, I've got to do that. And with the pandemic now, like it really did, like, bring a lot of stuff in my life to a halt, and it made me go like, "Fuck," like at first I was like, "Oh, this sucks. I've, lost so much." And now it's like, dog, you still got so much. Like you literally get to do so many cool things all the time. And you've done so many cool things. So yeah, learn to accept that shit, I guess. But when did this journey start for you?
It actually started, so my partner got very into meditation and that kind of thing.
Sounds about right.
And yeah, and it was about like 2018 or something when he started meditating. And I started meditating as well, but I'm still not very good at it. And I have to say, I did one session and I was like, oh my God, this is awful. I hate it. So I still have to, I still have to try and be like, I try and be meditative in other ways in my life and not just sit down and meditate. I know the benefits. Like, I know it's very good for you, but sometimes you need to wake up at 4 to start editing so you're done at a certain, you know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
there's deadlines. So I can't just be like, I'm going to wake up and like burn some incense and like sit on my meditation pillow and just really feel it. I also live on a busy street, so it's like you'll be meditating and you just hear these honks and horns and people yelling, and you're just like
Yeah,
super
but
zen
that's
right
not meant to be
now.
a problem. Like, that's
Yeah,
not,
I
you're
know,
meant to just include it into the
which you
practice.
see, but that's why, Bob, I said I'm not good at this meditation thing because that's clearly still a problem for me. Whereas my
No, that's
partner
what
can
I'm working
meditate.
on.
Yes, you know what I mean? So, like, my partner can meditate in that space and, like, not even hear it. Like, he'll be like, "Oh, I didn't even hear any of that," and I'm just constantly having to pull myself back into this mindfulness state and not think of anything. But, yeah, it
Oh,
was basically
100%.
that's that's where that's where I at least got to the point of being like, "Oh, I like mindfulness. I like how when you go on a walk, you're not being like, okay, when I get home, I have to do this and that and this and this and this. Like you are just in the walk and you're witnessing everything around you and like taking everything in, realizing being like, wow, it's crazy. I'm walking. Like, how does my body do this automatically? Like, this is crazy. What is this doing? Like, what do you mean? Oh my God, trees. Whoa, trees are sick. And you just like, so not to sound
Amen.
corny or anything, but it does make you feel very appreciative of like the really tiny small things. So
Yeah, like, as Natasha Bedingfield put it, "Feel the rain on your skin, no one else can feel it for you." It's like,
exactly. Amen. She knew. She was practicing mindfulness before it was cool. She got it.
yeah, it's interesting that it's become, like, as big a thing as it has, but I do think it's probably because, I mean, it's got a lot of valid points to it, just the whole
Yeah.
meditation aspect of life and, like, yeah, just getting in touch with your thoughts and the way the mind works and stuff like that. Like, I do, question a lot of the stuff because some of it seems pretty dogmatic and, like, yeah, there's
Yeah.
people
No, I
that
feel you.
like the transcendental stuff, like I like the practice, don't necessarily like the culture around it. So it's like yeah, it's interesting. I mean, that's the thing. It's like it's such a personal thing for everyone anyway, and it's so hard. Like it's weird for like I get you, like when you say like you're bad at it, but it's like it's impossible to be bad at it, because like that's part of the
Yeah.
process.
Yeah, I guess I feel you. But that's also like a me thing. Like I'm like, oh, I'm not good at this immediately. I hate it. You know what I mean? So I'm like, okay, move on to the next thing. What else can I get from this? And I guess I just like grabbed onto being more present in the moment and like, not chasing the next thing. And yeah, I think it's become more prevalent, especially I think in COVID. I think people had to kind of sit down and be like, where am I going and how am I pivoting and what is everything and what do I have? What don't I have? So I think it's a good and a bad thing. I think it can lend you to thinking very negatively if you give it the chance, as
Okay.
anything. And I think it can also give you a chance to be like really thoughtful and present and appreciative of everything. Or I don't know, maybe that's just me because I can easily spiral into negativity and like everything wrong in my life and thinking that's me being mindful. But meanwhile, I'm just beating myself up. But that's also why therapy exists.
So, okay, well, let's talk about that because I, yeah, like I haven't gone to therapy mostly due to financial reasons, but it's also
Mm,
because like apart like I don't know how I feel about all of it when it comes like because I know like psychology is still a pretty new science. Like it's only been around for like a
yeah.
hundred and something years. Like we're experimenting a lot with a lot of different drugs and a lot of different ideas around the brain and
Mm,
personality and why people do what they do and treatments and stuff like that. And it's almost like I don't
yeah.
necessarily want to be a guinea pig, but at the same time I see how much help and value a lot of people get. I also see how it doesn't work for other people. So
Mm.
I'm personally like just in a weird space with it, but for you, you say it's helped quite a lot.
Yeah, no, completely. I think listen, I've been going on and off to therapy since I was in grade 7, I want to say. I was diagnosed with clinical depression. So for me
Right.
personally, and I totally understand where people are coming from when they're saying, I don't want to be on medication, like it's not my thing, I don't feel like myself. It's like, you know, I totally understand the critique around medication because I feel like if it doesn't work for you and you don't feel like yourself and you feel like it's not adding to your life, then more power to you and get off of it. Like I don't think that's kind of you don't need to. You it's an easy fix for you to get off of it. But for me personally, I explain to people that I'm not myself without medication.
That's
And
fair.
yeah, you know what I mean? So if I'm not on medication and I'm in this deep spiral of depression, then I just am not myself. I don't find joy in anything. I sleep the whole day. So having medication was like literally a weight lifted off my shoulders. And I was like, oh my God, I can see color again. Like I feel amazing. Like, is this what it feels to be happy? Like, holy shit. You know what I mean? But finding the right therapist takes a long time. And I get it as well, where people say therapy is not for me, because I think it's either you find the right person and the type of therapy that gels with you, or you've tried everything and you just feel like I'm going to go on this practice or this journey by myself, and that's also more power to you. I need someone to kind of, how is it, not analyze but like deconstruct my thoughts, because sometimes I gaslight myself and being like, oh yeah, but this is why, and this is why it's happening. And my therapist will be like, but this is a recurring theme in your life, and then like my mind is blown and I'm like, what do you mean? How did you just
Yeah,
do
that's
that? That's
fair.
crazy. So again, that's
I
the
could
thing,
do
because
with some of that.
I've tried a lot of therapy and I've just realized that like I prefer talk therapy instead of someone, like I've tried being hypnotized. I've done, what was the other, I've tried everything, and I just came to the realization that it's like talk therapy is, it takes much longer and it's not a quick fix like hypnotherapy or anything like that. But I much rather be on a longer journey and take it more easy and take it session by session instead of being like, cool, like let's dive into your traumas, knock on that door while I'm hypnotizing you. And you're like, I don't want to go there. That's like really scary. So I can be on this when people are like, oh my God, therapy can be awful. I'm like, I agree. Like there are types of therapy that just doesn't work for some people. And then there's therapy that does work with you. And if you get a therapist who isn't like, because you do get therapists who kind of plant ideas into your brain, which I don't like, because they'll be like,
Yeah.
you'll say something and they'll insinuate something, and then you just kind of take it on and you'll be like, oh yeah, I guess that is something that affected me, when meanwhile it wasn't something that affected you at all, you were just mentioning it. So I get you, I get that therapy is not for everyone and medication is not for everyone. It's just, I think something people need to figure out in their lives and in the journey. And I think, I guess that's what your 20s are for, just figuring shit out. And then, and hopefully in your 30s, kind of being like, I kind of see where I'm going. I kind of get what's happening.
Yeah, I don't know. Like I'm like, yeah, kinda is a good way to put it. Like, yeah, I kinda know where I'm going. But like I'm also I've as like I said, like with this mindfulness stuff and like living in the present and
Mm,
like I'm honestly just trying not to even worry too much about the future, or about where I'm going
completely.
or anything like that. It has really become about like, well, what am I doing this week? Like and really
Literally.
trying to get the most out of those things instead of being like, in 5 years' time, I want to be here. Because
Oh yeah,
I've
I
had so
hate
many
those
5-year
questions.
plans. I had so many 5-year
Yeah.
plans, and every time I look at them, didn't work out. But like I did dope shit along the way, but I never
Yeah.
like nothing happened the way that like I thought it was going to. And so now like I'm trying to just do the things and accept that they're gonna whatever's gonna happen is gonna happen, you know?
I agree. I also I kind of take it not even week by week, but I take it day by day. I'm like, literally my plans for tomorrow can change. So why like I just need to go with the flow, see what happens. Like you said, just take hurdles and things as they come and kind of be like, okay, well, I guess this is happening. So how do I fix it or how do I overcome this obstacle instead of preemptively stressing about something that could happen or could not happen when it's like, why am I stressing about this when it's literally in the future and I can't predict it?
Exactly. You're just and if it does happen, you it's now been a like problem for you twice because you were you were stressing
Completely.
about it and then it happened. So rather just deal with it once when it happens. But that's a
Literally
very
just vibe.
idealistic way to think.
Yeah. We all just need a vibe. I think I jokingly told my friends because I was in Cape Town for 2 weeks with my friends. And they asked me, like, what do you want to do this year? And I was like, no thoughts, just vibes. Literally, I don't want to think. I just want to vibe. And they were like, sick. And that like became everyone's mantra. Because I guess that's like kind of mindfulness in a sense, in like a shitty term of like no thoughts, just vibes.
I mean, yeah, essentially it is just, just
Essentially, in
it's
my
it's,
weird
it's
way.
South African Zen.
Completely. That's my South African mindfulness. Maybe I need to make a PDF about it and sell it for like so much.
Yeah, do a course on Skillshare.
100% it's one class of me just being like, just don't think. Simply don't think.
Yeah, that's it. Just but like you say that over and over again and people can meditate to it.
Oh my God, that's sick. That's
Uh,
actually, I think we have something going on
anyway,
here now. Yeah, anyway.
we've just created like a new business for you. But yeah, let's actually talk a little bit about your creative stuff since I guess
Yes.
that's why I invited you on.
I love how you're like, hey, can I invite you to the podcast to talk about your career? And I'm like, so mindfulness.
I mean, I'm into it because yeah, like it's shit that I've been, like I've got this app. I used to have Headspace, but like I got rid of it just because
Mm,
like I'm on my like I hate being tracked by like different, like just companies having my
yeah.
data shit. So like I use this app called Medito
Yeah.
now because it's non-profit and
Oh,
all of that.
nice.
Yeah, so
Oh,
I've been digging it. Every morning I wake up, I read, I meditate, I get up, I do some yoga. Like it's like yeah, it's helped. It's helped keep me fucking sane. Even if I was doing something else, just having a routine in the morning of like I do this thing, then I do this thing, then I do that thing. Like
mm,
and those are all things that I just feel are beneficial towards me. So that's why I try to do them first thing in the
completely.
morning so that like if I put those later in the day, they don't get done.
A
Anyway,
100%, 100%. I'm the same. I'm like such a fiend for routine. It like brings me such joy to just be so formulaic in the morning. It like starts off your day quite nicely.
I never used to be, but it was after reading a book called Atomic Habits that I tried some shit out and some
Yes.
of it
Okay.
stuck. So, yeah, it's like the only self-help book I've read that like I'd be like, yeah, people should read that. So, if you haven't,
Yeah, I know.
and you ever on that
I've
space,
heard of it so much.
it's weird to recommend self-help book, but it really is just like 1% better every day and just focusing on your habits and just trying to make sure that you live the life you want to live essentially. And sometimes it takes a bit of effort, but you want to live the life as a photographer and videographer. It's something you've been doing for a while. How did you get into it?
Ah, so like whenever people ask me how did you get in photography, it feels like such a big question because I just like it feels like my whole life flashes before me where I'm like, oh yeah, shit. Because I got really obsessively into photography at like 15.
Rad.
Like I remember taking photos on like my family's like point and shoot and I was like, this is literally the coolest fucking shit I've ever done. Like and they weren't good photos at all, but the fact of like taking like my mind was blown to be like how does this work? Like, what do you mean I point something
Was
and
that
I
still
click
on
and like
film and stuff?
it was, I think it was like just when, like, it was super early 2000s. So it's like just when film was kind of moving out and like the
Okay.
first like point and shoot digitals were coming out. Because I can remember like the tiny screen in the back and you can kind of see
Fuck,
what's
they were so
happening.
small. I used to work in a 1 hour
Like,
Photoshop and like, yeah,
yes,
I was there when digital cameras started coming in, and it used to be like 6 grand for a even more than that, like 10 grand for a phone, like a camera that was basically like a phone camera 10 years ago. Like
literally, literally.
it's it's fucking crazy. Like, and like SLRs and stuff, like actual SLRs started getting so much cheaper. Film cameras, like I actually picked up a few film cameras when I used to work there because we
Mm.
couldn't sell them anymore, which is pretty interesting. But yeah, so that was like the time period that you were getting into it.
Yeah, and I remember everyone just like kind of being like, "Film's dead, get out of here." Now it's having this resurgence, so it's quite nice. And when my parents moved to their new place, they gave me all of their film cameras that are also still essentially point and shoots. So I was like, "Oh, this is so sick." It feels like memories, and I remember this, and I remember the zoom lens on this, or not zoom lens in quotations, like that thing when you press a button and it makes that insane noise to like
Yeah,
extend.
that whirring, that
Yes,
yeah,
exactly. So I think my first
I still got one
experiences
of
were like
those.
a little bit on the film camera, but mainly like when the family like just when it just switched over to digital and like people were like, "Oh my God, this is all the rage and this is so cool." So I remember not being really interested in it, and one day I took it and I actually I wanted to be a fine artist, and then I used to put my work up online, like my illustrations and my paintings and stuff to like try and be a thing at like what, as an infant. And
Yeah, like
then
DeviantArt.
one, yes, 100% that. So I, the scanner or something was broken that day. So I was like, oh, this sucks. Like, how do I put something up today? Like, I just had this urgency to like create something. And I was like, oh, I can't post anything. I'm so annoyed. And I was like, oh, I can take a photo of the art. And then I like took a photo of the art and I was like, oh, but maybe I can take a photo. And I started taking photos and I just like from that instant, I was like, fuck fine art. I'm a photographer. Holy shit, this is amazing. I don't know what it was, but it's like everything in my brain clicked and it was like, this is what you're supposed to do. This is this is it. And I had this like surgence of energy and endorphins. And I was like, this is the coolest shit I've ever done. Holy shit, what do you mean you can do photography? So after that, I just like completely immersed myself in it when I was like looking at tutorials and I was reading up on photographers throughout the years and like literally just I don't like I can't explain it, but it was like I was just completely obsessed. Like every day I would read
Did
up
you go
about like
through
a
an Annie
new.
Leibovitz phase at all?
Oh, 100%. Of course I
I
did.
I
And
thought so.
and that 100% made me be like, I'm gonna take photos of bands. So like at 15, 16, I'm literally like illegally going into fucking bars in Pretoria. And I'm like, what is up, Tings and Times? I'm here to take photos of the bands. No
Fucking
one
rad.
stopped me. I just went in there and I took so many photos and I tried to make connections. Like I was hustling. Like I was like, I'm gonna be taking photos of bands. Like this is what I'm doing. You know what I mean? Like I did
Yeah,
that for such a big majority of my life, and I actually made really nice connections and friends from that. Because obviously, the photographers are in like the media pits, so then you would be
you
waiting
all
for the band
chat
to
to each other.
arrive, and then you start, yeah, literally, you just sit there and you'll be like, "Oh, what gear you have?" And like, "Oh, I have this," and they'd be like, "Oh, sick, dude." You know what I mean? So I made some nice connections, and I think it's like it's quite a nice way to get into photography because I just never after my parents like saw how obsessed I was and they got me my first camera, I just vowed to never shoot on automatic. So I think if you're shooting a band live in the pit and you have to learn these settings as you go, otherwise you're going to get like a horrific photo. I think that was like
Yeah,
my kind of boot camp of being like, now I will always remember what all of this does, like what shutter speed is, my f-stops, my like all the things, because like once you fuck up and you're like, oh, I could have gotten this cool shot,
Oh
but
God,
then
yeah.
you drop the ball and you're like, oh, but it's like super underexposed, or like too like overexposed, or my focus was wrong, or you
I mean,
know.
but shout outs to Photoshop for being able to fix everything but the focus there.
Completely. I mean, to a point. Listen, to a point, because like Photoshop back then, like Photoshop now is insane. Like I can't believe how much it can do. But back then, and also me
Yeah.
having like limited experience, and I think I only really got Photoshop when I started studying. So little baby old me was I don't even know what I was editing on. Like what the fuck was I even using?
GIMP.
But I literally
I mean,
don't
I
know.
use GIMP now,
But I thought I was like the coolest shit. I was like, I'm editing photos and I'm taking photos of bands or like whatever. And I'd go to hotbox gigs and like, yo, the good old days.
yeah, no, it's kind of crazy, like just the Photoshop thing. Because so when I used to work in the 1 hour Photoshop, I learned to like edit and like I still love photography, but like I don't take photos. But yeah, like editing and stuff was so different. Like I see Paige, who's my girlfriend, she's a photographer, and I see her edit now, and like stuff that
Mm.
would have taken me days, like literally days to do, like just clone stamping stuff and that is now like literally like a one click thing. You can just get rid
Yeah,
of
it's
things and like replace
like
stuff and like it's magic.
yeah, like it's crazy. Like masking now is like a few clicks where before you had to like literally
Oh
take the
my
lasso
God.
tool and you have to like select everything. Like it took ages. Also, I'm a massive fan of Paige as well. Like her work is stunning. But anyway,
Okay, well,
detouring off from that.
well, she digs your work too. So I guess I can
Oh my
actually get,
god.
well, obviously, I mean, yeah. Anyway, she actually wanted to ask a question because I put it out there for the patrons, and yes, my girlfriend supports my work. How cool is that?
What a vibe.
Anyone listening who's like, "Oh, that's weird." No, it's rad as fuck. Um, she wanted to basically know, how do you organize your photos? Because yeah, like it's a problem that she deals with. So, what's your filing system like?
Oh, filing system. At first I was gonna be like, organize how? Like the photo shoots or like on my hard drive? Like I was like,
Yeah.
organize how? So I take it year. So I have each year has its photos that I've taken in that year. So I try and remember the shoots I've done in each year. And then that's how I remember being like, oh, I remember taking this photo in 2020 before all the shit happened. So I go into that folder and I put it into like personal and professional, and all my client work goes into professional. Personal work goes in obviously in my personal folder, and then those are subcategories of like photography and video, and then subcategories of like fine art, whatever. Same with my commercial or professional shoots. I then subcategorize it by like each client's name or brand's name, and then the assigned kind of job, whatever it is. And so it's like a multi like I do a huge filing system, because before I would just like put things in and being like photos, and just like doesn't matter what year it was or whatever, I just put it in there. But that was such a shit show for me personally, because I literally felt like everything was disorganized and nothing had a place. So now I like probably over compensate by like making everything into a folder and a subfolder.
I think it's something you just learn with time. I mean, I should have a
Yeah.
way better filing system for all the almost perfect stuff, but it's like once it's uploaded, I kind of just put everything away in a folder. Like not really. Yeah,
No,
I need
completely.
to, but it's like it's done. It's online. It's fine. It's
Yeah, it's
like I
fine. Hey, don't worry. It's cool.
I'm
It's
never
not a
gonna need
bother.
this again. Meanwhile, yeah, one
Exactly.
day, like you're like people are like, "Oh yeah, can I get this thing from you?" And you're like, "You can, hypothetically, if I could find it." Like,
Listen, I still do that thing whenever I'm editing. It's everything's untitled, okay? Don't tell me to find a specific file in Premiere or Photoshop or Lightroom, because it's all untitled, okay? But I've saved it in my subcategory folder, so I will find it.
yeah, it's like we all find our own systems. So yeah, you started out photography like the way like most of my peers started out photography, photographing bands, photographing the
Mm,
people around you, the chaos, the debauchery, the good times.
completely.
Yeah, so how did like that help you evolve like into and what did that evolve into? Because I see you as you're saying, you now do commercial work and stuff like that. But what's the process been like from going from the band scene towards the more commercial, the more stylized and actually doing shoots instead of just living in the moment, I guess.
Yeah, I guess it went from me doing bands and then photographing my friends of us out and about getting drunk and me discovering Joburg at that same time at like 17 and just taking my camera everywhere. And my friend Hunter and I were actually talking about it how we both used to take our cameras everywhere and document everything. We kind of missed that aspect of
Yeah,
our
his
work.
name sounds familiar.
Yeah, Hunter Havenga or
Oh,
Havenga,
okay.
however you want to say it. I say Havenga or Havenga, who cares? He's Hanru. And so I've known Hanru since I was like 16 or 17. And I think I also met him in the pit to be, I think. Because he also kind of started off in the same way. So I've met some really nice people like photographing bands. I you know what? I can't tell you how it evolved. I think it just happened, it just kind of unflowed and happened naturally where I started taking photos of my friends out and about and I met more people in Joburg and I was like immersed in that culture from like Pretoria to Joburg. And I was a major shift where I was like, wow, people are more like-minded here. Like I felt more at home. And then I went into studying photography and then eventually failing photography. But luckily I had double
I
majored
saw that,
in
which is so
film.
weird to me. How did you
I
fail
know it's
photography?
so I think when you have it all depends on your lecturer. And
Okay, fair.
I I had a lecturer who, like, bless her soul, but she was very much like this is the style she likes, even though she never said it, but
She had
it was
biases.
she had very much a bias of like what was photography in her eyes and what was it like who could be a model and what was the look and feel and
Ah,
whatever.
okay.
Because I remember a lot of my obviously when I started out back in, you know what, maybe not say a time because then my age is going to be revealed, which is also not a problem, but I'm just going back into the olden ages. But when I was in first year, I remember my peers and their work being so sick. Like there was this one girl who did like really grungy, like punk things. Like it could this literally her work was in black and white and it reminded me a lot of the stuff that literally the journalistic work that was in like the 19 like what 80s, like it was super
Oh,
grungy and she
rad.
hung out with all these punks and I was like this is fucking sick, dude. Like I was like yo, I can't wait to see your work in like third year, like this is going to be amazing. And then unfortunately in third year her work completely evolved to like what this lecturer wanted and it was dampened down, that none of that edge, none of that thing that made her work was completely gone.
More
And the
plastic, more
reason
glossy.
completely like airbrush skin, like super super airbrush, like back where it was back then. And my lecturer and I just butted heads too many times. I had to always reshoot things because she didn't like the model I picked and then she wouldn't like the makeup I picked and I just constantly fought her where I was like, but is my lighting okay, is my composition right, is my like why are you
Are the
looking at
technicals good?
completely. Like I would just sit there and I'd be like, I disagree. Like I don't care if you don't like it that I didn't put mascara on this model, but I saw a Dazed magazine shoot do exactly this thing. You said a beauty shoot. I'm doing a beauty shoot. I'm sorry I find this model attractive and you don't. Like that's subjective. Like I'm sorry. I'm not gonna budge on this. I'm not gonna let you tell me what this is or isn't. Is my work technically strong or what? And then she just constantly focused on the wrong things. So on my fourth year portfolio, she was like, "You just haven't evolved. You haven't stepped up." And I just remember leaving. I remember leaving the portfolio review and her being like, "I don't think I can pass you for next year." And I was like, "Good." And I just like left. I was just
Wow.
so I was so done at that point because I was like, I actually don't want you to completely take away from what I have or anything.
Have you sent her your work since?
No, I don't
I
even know
would
where
I
she
would.
is.
Because it's like you can even literally see the evolution of your work like through the years,
Mm,
like now. Like, stylistically it's changed quite a lot. And it's weird because like, now your stuff is a bit less grungy, I guess. But like your
mm.
models aren't as conventional and you don't do the same kind of poses and like you definitely take a different approach to like, fashion and editorial stuff, I guess.
Yeah, completely. And I mean, I do miss the grungy element of my work, and I like that you called my work grungy. I feel very cool about it, so now I can use it without seeming arrogant and thinking I'm grungy.
I mean, your
But
early
that's the
stuff does have that, like, feel of being in the scene, of being around the vibe. Like, and I mean, it is
completely.
how a lot of young photographers get their starts. I mean, yeah, like I think everyone starts off with a little edge, it gets softened, and
Mm,
then at some point they start finding it again. I don't know. Like, or finding a new way to like mold, edge into softer things because it's
yeah,
also a matter of growth personally, I imagine. You're not
completely,
still just this young
completely.
rebel.
Completely. I mean, I think that's what Hanru and I were talking about. We miss that like that little bit of like that grungy element in the work, but I think you only get that if you're like documenting you and your friends in that scene. So I'm so glad I did take my camera everywhere because I look back at that work very fondly and I'm like, oh, where was this Olivia? She was so cool and didn't give a shit. And she was like young and she was like crazy and feisty. And now this Olivia is talking about mindfulness and looking at trees and being a granny at her place, going to bed at 9. Like, what is her problem? But at the same time, I also enjoy this part of
Whereas
my life.
whereas young Olivia was just mindful, like was just living in the moment in some ways.
Well, not even. Like I think I stopped taking photos. I stopped taking my camera everywhere because I did really separate myself from the moment because all I was fixated
I
on
can
was
imagine.
getting, capturing the moment instead of being in it. So I was always viewing this and taking photos of it where and not being part of
Living
it.
it. Yeah.
That's the thing. And that's also the thing of like I used to also vlog a lot of like my friends and everything, but that also felt like I was being taken out of the moment. Even if it was for a few minutes, that's still too many minutes for my liking because I want to be present with my friends. I want to dance. I want to remember these days of my life and not through images or video, which is also nice to look back on. Like, don't get me wrong, but I'd rather it be like kind of a memory of me looking back on and knowing that I fully part partook in the moment. Don't know if I'm making any sense. I took so
No,
much coffee today.
you took so much coffee. I like the way you put that.
I took it in the vein, straight in the vein.
No, but that does make sense, and I feel like a lot of photographers probably deal with that at some point. And even me as a writer and someone who used to write about going out, a lot.
Mm,
And I used to take notes, whilst watching bands and like those sorts of things. It does like take you out of the moment because you're trying to think about how to present the moment, and it's it creates it creates a weird vibe because like you're not enjoying the thing that you're doing as much because it's now become a whole meta like experience essentially. And at the same
completely.
time, but when you start out doing it, it's super fun, it's super enjoyable because doing that thing and framing stuff in a certain way and thinking about what's going on around you and analyzing it, and for you, trying to frame it and that is such a valuable experience. But it does become a point where I guess it starts to become draining. And I also wanted to, I guess, bring up the vlogging thing because I see you haven't done anything in 6 months. And I wonder if, like, what are your thoughts when it comes to producing content for, online consumption, essentially? Because you've been doing it for years since the Deviant Art days?
Yeah. I guess YouTube, I take it like day by day. Like sometimes I have time to edit a video because at the same time I was so thankful of having film as like my second major and which
Yeah.
became like my degree at the end of the day because I think that also shaped me as a photographer and a creative in general, having film behind me and like the teachings of that. So I love YouTube for the fact that I can kind of still embrace and like flex that side of my creativity with like the medium of film and not take it myself too seriously as well with it, because for a long time there I thought, okay, you know what, I'm photography probably isn't for me professionally, like I still love it, but maybe I should be a filmmaker, and that's what I really wanted to do at one
Why
point.
why that shift? Because of the lecturer.
Yeah, I think I was just so jaded, and I was like, if this is what the industry is like, and this is what the standard is in the industry, I don't know if I can do it. You know what I mean? I didn't have anyone telling me your lecturer doesn't know shit and like they don't know the standard of you know what I mean? Like I kind of took it as, oh well, if I can't make it in varsity, then where am I going to make it? Which is actually so stupid to think about, because you like if you peak
It's
in varsity,
literally
like what the fuck, dude? If you peak in varsity, like shame. You know what I
I
mean?
mean, yeah, I mean, varsity is a useful tool, but like I don't dismiss it for anyone that utilizes it. But
No,
yeah,
completely.
like people are doing shit in real life. Like it's not the end of the world. Like what you get
Exactly.
published, like outside of varsity is actually the stuff that matters. The varsity is
Exactly.
practice essentially.
Exactly. Yeah, no, no. Varsity is so sick and you can take so much from it. But I think she just like kind of she made it very like, I don't know, I got very jaded about photography, and I just kind of wanted to really focus on film, because I was like, you know what, I'm here now, let me just like really embrace this. And in my matric vac, my friends and I made I want to say short film, but it really wasn't. But we did something. Instead of going to matric vac, we just made this like short little film thing about the
Teen
scene in
creeps, right?
Joburg. Yes, yes.
No, it was
And
cute. I'll say that. It's like I don't know if that
yeah,
like you'll take that like as an insult, but it's not. Like it was genuinely like quite heartwarming to watch because it
I'm
reminded me of that time period for myself.
completely. I think it's so we obviously weren't going for the nostalgia factor when we were filming it, but I think we
Yeah.
definitely hit the nail on the head for nostalgia, because every time I do show it to people, because I still show it, like it's not well done. It was edited on iMovie. I didn't edit it. My friend Kyle did, and I just filmed it. But I think filming made like kind of interested me, and I was like, oh, maybe I could get into this. And so in film, when I now studied it, I kind of focused on cinematography, and I specialized in it, and I went further into it as well in my postgraduate studies at Wits. I think after failing photography, I just really dove straight into film, and I was like, this is still to do with cameras and me being behind the lens and telling stories, but in a different way, in a way of like motion pictures. And I think it was so good for me to have that, because then I learned about film theory. And I mean, a lot of film theory can also apply to photography, especially
Oh,
also the
100%.
female and male gaze, and how the frame can tell you so much without there being dialogue or things being said. And I think that's what lacks in a lot of photographers, local or international. I think that's where a lot of that is lacking in it, because I see people use framing or camera angles, or and I just think, but why that when you were trying to communicate this? Like, surely you should know what this is saying.
Yeah.
So I'm glad I kind of I had that, because in my photography classes I didn't really have much theory. We just had technical theory, and that was it. There was nothing behind like, this is the male gaze, this is the female gaze, this is
So I guess
the
yeah, like auteur
sub-Saharan
theory does
gaze.
help with that.
Completely. Like I think there was such a blessing in disguise that happened, that I still went for film, because at first I was like, I'm just going to study photography, and then the matric vac thing happened and teen creeps happened. I was like, actually I want to study film as well. Like why not? Like let's go guns blazing, double major.
And they complement each other quite well, especially these days since like I think back in the day when stuff was done on film, there was probably a bit more of a divide. But these days, since your digital camera that you're taking photos with can also shoot film, if you've got like a
Completely.
D5 or whatever or 5D, then you're good to go. You can make yourself a short film or you can do a rad shoot.
Completely. Yeah, that I mean that's what I do. I don't make short films or anything anymore. The last time I made a short film was in like 2019 or early 2020. I can't remember now.
That's not that long
But
ago, but I guess it is. I guess it is. Like, I just feel like these last 2
it
years
feels
don't count.
long.
Like, no one did anything. It's fine. Like,
Yes, yes, I know what you mean. But I mean, I do want to do more short films or like fashion films. I want to say more like there's no really dialogue involved. So I do want to do more fashion films this year because I do love film and I think it's such a beautiful medium and the two do complement each other where I can still show, I guess, my eye and how I film and how I photograph. It's like they, like you said, they complement each other really well. So I'm glad I had that experience in kind of Matric where my friends were like, let's make this fucking short film because also our friend Ben was like,
Ben
hey,
Rausch.
I'm
I saw his
yes,
name
Ben
there.
Rausch.
He's like, if he listens to this, dude, I'm gonna be hitting you up sometime to chat on this podcast. But yeah.
Hey Ben.
Anyway.
Um and yeah, he was like, listen, I'm having this thing at the Bioscope. Do you guys wanna make you guys want to make anything for it? So we were like, oh my god, this is our sign. And we just like filmed this and we put it together and like I still look at it very fondly. Like I look at Teen Creeps and I just like can't help but smile because I'm like, oh, my friends, and we were so young and like we were in Melville. Look at us go. Oh my God. It was, yeah, like I think I don't take offense to it being seen as cute because I look at it and I'm also like, oh, cute man. Like, look at what we
Yeah,
did.
it's youthful. It's got that youthful like exuberance and ignorance to it. Like, just that
Completely.
the world at your yeah, like you just yeah, everything's gonna work out, everything's great. Like one of those
Yeah,
kind of vibes.
you're just out and all you were planning on is going out. You know what I mean? You don't have the weight of the world on your shoulders. You're just like, oh, where are we gonna go out to drink? Like where are we taking shots? Where are we dancing? So yeah, I remember us on the premiere of it and at the Bioscope and we were like shitting bricks. Like we were like, oh my fucking god, this is so stressful. And people loved it. They were like, this is, I think, obviously, because we were quite younger than everyone else there. So they also looked at it in a way of like nostalgia and it being cute and like wholesome and naive. And they were just like, this is so
Yeah.
sweet and lovely. Like, well done. Like, you guys totally encapsulated like a
Yeah, there's no
time in someone's
cynicism in it.
life completely.
Yeah, which I think if you're older, like, does feel refreshing. It does feel like, yeah, because as you get older, you get a bit more jaded. Unfortunately, that's them's the breaks, I guess.
Yeah, unfortunately, and I guess I'm trying not to become super jaded with age. I don't know if it's like it just happens and I can't stop it, but I think it's nice to be a little bit naive and hopeful about things and like look at life in that way, I guess.
Yeah, it can be. Like, it depends on what you're going through in your life. I don't know what everyone's personal problems are, but I know like for most people, well not most people, but for a lot of people, like yeah, things can be fucking great. Like, you just have to look at it in a certain way. You might be like we're starting this thing off with, I guess.
Mm.
You know, it's glass half full kind of shit. Like essentially.
No,
It
exactly,
is
exactly.
yeah. Actually, yeah, we were kind of discussing how you got into the more commercial side of things. So you want to carry on telling me that?
Oh yeah. So going into the commercial side, it was actually more with filming. So I don't know how it got about.
Okay.
I think I was in my second or third year of studying film. So like I was out at Great Dane and then um this woman approached me and she's from like England. So I was like, whoa, love your accent. And she saw my camera and she's like, "Oh, are you a photographer?" And at that time, wasn't really comfortable with telling people that I am. So I was like, "Oh no, I study film and I kind of take photos just for myself and whatever." And she's like, "Oh, sick, you film." I work for Mary Claire and I do their like online kind of like video content. Like, I would love to have an assistant. So I was like, "Oh, yeah, duh.
Wow.
Obviously, I'll do that." So I was like, yeah, of course. Like she didn't even look at my work or nothing. She just like took it that I knew what I was doing because I was like studying film. So she was like, you know how to use a camera, so we're sorted. So I was like, great. And I guess that was my introduction to like the more
That
commercial
is
world.
that is fucking crazy.
I know, I literally was like, what is happening?
Like even that, and like you were saying, like the video thing, like it does just seem like these little serendipitous moments that just like set things in action.
Yeah, but completely. But I think it's like it's serendipitous because I think if you are living authentically and you are just completely allowing yourself to be drawn to these passions, then things do open up. Like obviously you do work and you network and things happen in that way. But I think
Yeah,
people can feel it from you if you are very passionate about something and then they are kind of like really jazzed up and they trust you and they want you to work for them if do you know what I mean? Like also not to sound super
yeah,
hippy dippy or anything, but I think if you
yeah. You've got
really
an
love
energy.
yeah, if you love writing and people see your work or you speak to them about writing, then people are going to be drawn to that and be like, "Oh my God, I need this person to write for me. Like they're amazing. Like how crazy that we met each other." And I mean, the meeting that a woman Joanna at Great Dane was literally such a fluke because I think it was like a weekend or something, and I was just there during the day to go to Kitchener's for like a thrift thing, and then I went to Great Dane afterwards to meet friends before, and then she was there and she came up to me first to be like, "Are you a model?" And I was like, "No, I'm not." And she was like, "Okay, anyway, what else do you do?" And I was like, "I do this and this." And she was like, "I'm literally looking for a video assistant, like slash second shooter. You have to work with me." So I was like, "Okay, great."
That's amazing. She went to Great Day to find talent. That is, she went talent scouting at Great Day. That is fucking
Basically,
amazing.
Basically, because yeah, she saw me and then obviously I was super flattered because she was like, "Are you a model?" And I was like, "No, I'm not, but okay, thank you so much." And then we just started chatting and I was because I think I just went like, Wow, your accent's amazing. Like you're obviously from England or where are you from?" And we just started talking like that. And then yeah, she brought me on like a shoot for Elle. I can't remember what it was. Like I think it was for like looking for the next designer or something. And then she brought me on to Fashion Week and we did things for Fashion Week where she if I got all my shots like filming wise, then she would be like, "Cool, we have everything. If you just want to walk around backstage and take photos, like go for it because I know you want to get more into taking photos." And I was like, "Oh, great. I can like, flex this muscle again and kind of like get back into it." So it was so nice meeting
She
her.
seems fucking cool. Like
Yeah, she's
genuinely.
so rad. She's a florist like back in England now, but like she's living her best life. She's engaged. She's like killing the things. But yeah,
Wow.
that was a nice introductory to like more of the commercial side, making connections. Because from that, I met so many people that I see sometimes in the fashion industry now, like on set again. No one remembers me because I look very different, but it's whenever I tell them, "Oh, I worked with Joanna and we did this and this," then they're like, "Oh shit, I remember you. You were so young and like blah blah blah." And I'm like, "Yes, and here we are now, old and weathered." And yeah, I
Well,
guess
I
that
would I
was my
wouldn't be
intro.
telling models that, but yeah.
No, no, I mean like me and the fashion stylist or whatever
Yeah.
will both be like, "Ah, look at us now, all aged and matured." Then I think I didn't do much after that. Like she kind of like moved back. She kind of got like she was done with SA. Like she was kind of like, "Cool, I've done my time here. I'm gonna head back, like be with my family." And I didn't do much commercial stuff after that. I think I just like focused again on like getting my degree done and like just getting a degree. And then that happened and moved to Joburg. And I was just trying to hustle, meet people, do shoots. I mean, in the beginning, you do a lot of work for nothing, right? Like you shoot,
Yeah.
you don't get paid, and you just hope your portfolio builds and builds, and you send your work to places and you hope they write about you or you get your name out there somehow, somewhere.
I mean, you were in 10 and 5 when you were quite young.
Yes, I was gonna say 10 and 5 wrote about me. But I think if you're not like constantly in people's radar or like they're not hearing about you the whole time, they're gonna forget about you. That's just like how it works. So, because I was like super young when they featured me, and then by the time I was in Joburg, I was like in my early 20s, still young, but like it's a lot of time had passed between the feature and to me actually being in Joburg and doing things.
Yeah, and it's also, I mean, even the editor at 10 and 5 would be different by that point. So, like,
Completely,
them doing a follow-up story doesn't even become a thing because of, like, just the way
completely.
stuff rotates.
Yes, and I mean, I think the girl who wrote about me is now her own, like a still life photographer who does like amazing work. Like, holy shit, like her work is so good. So I also find that's like pretty cool that she like wrote about me and now she's also this photographer, and we still sometimes like we catch up on online and I'll be like, your work's so cool. I can't believe you made like a lemon look so good. And she's like, yes, thank you so much. But I think I can't tell you like the day it happened. I kind of always like was either working with influencers because I was just trying to get in somewhere and make money, and I sent out specials and I was like, listen, if we shoot, I'll shoot you for like 3 outfits for like fuck all money. And like that's how I kind of got people to like, recommend me to other people and make more money and that kind of
Yeah.
thing. But at one point I really was just making money and I wasn't producing work that really spoke to me or made me really happy.
What was that? Just like lots of portraiture, like people just in press shots and that sort of stuff?
Yeah, just like, yeah, like people needing photos for their feed, and I didn't feel challenged. I think that's what I was, because I think it gets very formulaic shooting things for influencers and
Especially in
for
Joburg,
clients.
it's yeah, there's like 5 places you can go.
Oh, especially in Joburg, and there's like, yeah, there's only so much you can do, and I mostly shot at my house, so I guess I'd made it a little bit different. But I mean,
Okay.
there's so much you can do, I guess. And then I guess it's just not for me to completely take photos of in that space too much. It does pay the bills. Like people are always willing to take photos, and if they have a brand thing they need photos for, then that's also great. But at the end of the day, I needed to sit back and be like, what really makes me happy? What makes me feel fulfilled and really centered as a photographer and a creative? Because I think I also became very jaded in the film industry because I thought I could like jump in and assist people, but I sadly got a lot of doors were closed off to me because I would reach out to these cinematographers and they would just say, sorry, I don't take female assistants because you can't pick up gear, you're not strong enough.
Oh, wow.
So that felt a bit weird for me. And I was like, wait, that's so weird. Like, what kind of gear are you carrying? I don't understand. Like, I get we're on a film set, but you would have multiple assistants in the camera department. So if I can't pick up one light, then I would just ask someone else to help me pick up the other side. You know what I mean? So that kind of really got me, like, I guess,
Made you feel like
put
there wasn't a
off.
place for you.
Yeah, I did really feel that. I was like, oh, maybe I studied the wrong thing. I don't know if the and it just really put me off. And I was like, you know what? I think I'm just gonna do my own thing and see if I can make some money with photography somewhere or film something or do my own thing, see what happens. Because I try not to worry too much about money. I feel like if you stress too much about money, then it becomes quite a big thing in your life. And I know like I've been there where I've had literally nothing. And I'm like, fuck, how am I gonna pay rent? How am I gonna do anything? Fuck. But I
I mean,
think
those are
that
the times that you need to really think about it, you know? Like,
yeah,
unfortunately,
completely,
like
completely. That's what I'm saying. Like, you do have to think about those at those times. But I realized when I was constantly thinking of money and like being like, "Fuck, I need more money. I need more money. I need more money." It just got worse, and I would always end up in those situations of like, "Fuck, I can't pay rent. I can't buy groceries. Like, where am I going? Have to message my landlord again." But when I just decided to be like, just fucking relax. Don't let money have this hold on you, even though as a capitalist society, we love to believe or like think shit, money does have this hold on you. And it does. I'm not being
yeah.
like idiot, but I guess it was a mind shift for me to be like, just don't let this have this power over you because it's gonna drive you insane. And then the moment I was just like, what needs to be will be. And if I have to have an influx of money this month, I will. If I don't, I don't, whatever. And when I had that change, I feel like more opportunities came towards me and like I didn't have to scrounge each month. I mean, some months are like that. Like the industry is just like that. January and February are pretty fucking
Yeah.
gross. And they like, there's no money, but I don't bite my nails over it and think, shit, what am I going to do? And like, what's happening? Like, oh my God.
It's
I
also
think
you
when I
learn
had
to
that
save your money. Like for me personally,
completely,
that's the thing. Like
completely,
I do some jobs. I mean, not it hasn't been a while that I've done jobs for tons of money, but over the years, like there were jobs that I did that like
yes,
I got paid big bucks, and I was like, cool,
yes,
that is going in the bank. And the next month, that like I'm only getting like 2 grand. At least I've got money in the bank to see me through. Like I was very well, I've become very good at, yeah, when I get paid, not necessarily spending that money, because
completely.
that is something, yeah, because that's how you stress less about money, I guess, is you just spend less.
Completely, completely. But I was more in a space where I would be earning 2K a month, and then I'd be like, I have to spend this for rent or groceries.
Yeah.
And so like I was like literally just like living off. But I just like when I made that shift of being like, I'm not gonna let this have this stress and power over me anymore, is when I don't know, for some reason, I don't know if it was just serendipitous again or me having a mind shift or just like not stressing and fixating on it, is when everything else came in. And I just made plans and I was like, you know what? I'm just going to do this. I'm just going to relax and then things will happen. And yeah, like I said, obviously you think that and then still nothing happens and you're like, oh, well, this sucks. But I think a lot of
But you've
photographers
become
lately
more
that I see,
okay with it.
yeah, you just have to kind of be like, it's fine. I'm not one of those photographers at this moment who's making a fuck ton of money, and it's fine. And it's funny because I was really in a weird place in photography where, again, I was at this crossroad of like, this isn't working out for me. So why am I trying so hard? I do love it, but doesn't mean I have to make money from it. And I was like at this point in my life where I was like, do I go for photography full time as a professional, like be a photographer, or should I be more of a hobbyist and still enjoy it and love it and take photos? But it's not necessarily how I make money. Is when I got the email from Girl Gaze and was like, hey, we have a client looking for lifestyle photos. Do you have any? And I was like, yeah, sure, here you go. And then weeks passed and they were like, cool, client loves it. Can you have more? And I was just thinking to myself, who the fuck is client and why do they constantly need photos? Like, I just sent you photos. Now you want more. But I sent again, not thinking anything of it. I literally went back into studying film because I was like, where am I going? Maybe if I study film further, I can become a film lecturer or something. Like I was really thinking like maybe this is where I should go. Maybe I should go into more of the academic side and become a lecturer and not really focus on being a photographer. And then I get this
Sheesh, you
email
really
back and
had
they're
like
like,
all the thoughts, like when it comes to the stuff. Cause like everything you're telling me is like conversations I've had with people before, but with different people. Like, not the like,
completely,
becoming a videographer and then, oh no, that's not working. Let me become a lecturer kind of thing. For some people, it's just like, no, let me become a videographer or a lecturer.
completely. So I think as creatives, we always have to kind of you get in those moments where you're not earning money, no one's calling you, it's been months, you're feeling demotivated, you're not feeling inspired, and then you just think to yourself, shit, is this for me? Because everyone else I see is kind of flourishing and thriving and earning them earning a living and creating work they really love. Maybe this isn't for me. Maybe I'm trying too hard. Maybe I'm like focusing too hard on this and like trying to make something out of something that isn't for me. So that's where I was. And I was like, let me just study film, get my honors, see what happens. Maybe I can go further and do a master's and whatever and become a lecturer. Maybe that's where I should go because I was really enjoying academia at that point. So again, I was like, oh, let me like pivot towards here because I'm really enjoying it. So maybe this is what is telling me I should do this. But then I get this email, like these back and forths of like client likes this, client wants more. And for the whole time, I'm like, what the fuck? Stop bothering me. Like, what's happening? This is so weird. Are you just taking photos? Like, who's client? But I was like, yeah, sure. Here's more photos of a woman on a couch. Like, I don't know, dude. And then because they were like, we want lifestyle. And I was like, I guess I've taken lifestyle photos. Like, I don't know. So I just sent a bunch of headshots I've
Just
sent of
quickly
like
Google what is a lifestyle photo.
literally, I was like, lifestyle photography. And I was like, oh, okay. So you're like in the moment. Cool. So I sent a bunch of stuff from like me 17, like in and around Melville, and like shots of models I've taken on couches when they were just like idle and things. So I was like, I don't know, fuck, I guess this is lifestyle. Like, I don't know. And that was like the second time I sent it because I was like, what's happening? This is so weird. This is a weird email I'm getting. This could be a scam, actually. And then they send me and they're like, okay, cool. We need you to sign this NDA. Client has approved you. And I'm like, what the fuck? What
Who
is
is the client?
this?
What is
Yeah,
going on?
I literally was like, what the fuck is happening? Who is client? And I had been part of Girl Gaze. I say a part of, like, I followed them when they had like 100 followers, and now they've blown up, which is so cool. But I followed them because I was like, yes, the female gaze, feminism, yeah. And I followed them, and I made an account on there. And at one point, I was like a Girl Gaze ambassador when they had that thing going on. So I think they just like knew of me, and when this brief came in, they were like, oh yeah, this one. So I signed this NDA stupidly, literally not asking questions. I was just like,
Wow.
okay. And I like signed this NDA and I sent it off. I could have sold literally my soul. Like I was like, here you go,
Yeah,
whatever.
don't
But
do
I wasn't,
that. Like, just to
yeah,
people
no.
listening.
Yeah, don't be an idiot like me. Cause I was literally, but I think it's because I was so not focused on photography that I was like,
Whatever
sure,
happens,
okay.
happens.
Like I mean, it was a very legit email. I mean, an NDA and contract because I read it and like I let everyone else read it and they were like, I mean, it doesn't look like a scam. And I was like, I guess it's not a scam. Oh well, signed it. And then like the next day I get an email. They're like, cool, here's your brief for Dove. And I was like, what the fuck are you talking about? And I was like, okay. And I get this brief for Dove
Like, of
South
all the
Africa or
brands, I
like
can't imagine you would have thought of them.
not at all, because the whole time they're like client and client, and in the NDA it was also like no mention of a brand at all. They were like, "This is an NDA
So
for
who were you
client."
thinking? Like, what were some of the
No,
names going through your mind?
I literally wasn't thinking of anyone. I was like, "Who? I don't know who this is," because whenever you talk about SA and like Girl Gaze reaches out to you, you just think of like, oh, it's probably like a small brand somewhere here or something. I just wasn't perceiving photography at that point. So I was like, I don't know who we're talking about. I don't know who it could be, but it's something small, I guess. I'm just signing an NDA for there's probably a celebrity involved or something like a South African celebrity. Like, I don't know. Like I was being very naive about it. Like I was like, sure, here you go. And then they say it's for Dove, and I was like, oh, local Dove. But then I checked the actual email further, like because I got it while I was in class, and I was like, oh, that's weird. Okay, why would Dove let me sign an NDA? That's so random. Because again, I thought it was like local Dove, and at first I thought it was like something to do with like an influencer campaign. So I was like, okay, cool, I'll read this when I get back from class. And then I read, and I was like, oh, it's a global campaign and it's Dove and Getty and Girl Gaze. And I was just looking at that email and I was like, what the fuck is happening right now? Like I was literally like, I had my boyfriend read it because I was like, what is happening? And I was like, what is going on? Like, I don't understand. Why me? What's happening? But I just like kind of took it on. I was like, okay, well, this fell into my lap. So I'm just gonna take it. Like I can't say no. And I just went with it. They were like, yeah, you're one of the, I think it was like 39 or something photographers globally chosen to do this, like this global shoot. And all the photos would go on Getty to make an album on Getty so that no kind of ad agency or any kind of brand could have an excuse to not have real women in photos and represented and taken by women. So I was like, cool, this kind of fits into my vibe at the moment. I was also writing about mental health representation in American movies or American cinema. So I was like, okay, this kind of aligns with the representation thing. That's kind of cool. I'm into this. And I got a hold of Elle and they approved of her and we shot. And then they wanted me to shoot someone again. So I was like, cool, I'll shoot someone again. And it was just like such an introductory or like such a lovely experience of how a professional photographer can be treated because they were so good at communicating. They respected me. They respected my time. They respected my rates. I mean, I didn't even give a rate. They were like, this is the budget we can afford. But I was like, that's totally fine because I'm converting this from dollars to rand and I'm very happy with this right now. And every time they were so happy with the L shoot that they were like, cool, we want you to shoot someone else. And again, I was like, this is so crazy that they keep liking my work and I haven't shot in like ages. Like, I'm so confused. I mean, all I've been shooting is influences. So I was like, how is this happening? And then I hand in everything and I'm still busy with my honors and my research paper. So that was also a crazy time. I think like months pass and I'm like, cool, well, my job is done. Like I've done the edits I need to do. Everything's on Getty. They just need to launch everything. And I'm still like, this is such an amazing opportunity that I can be part of this like gallery on Getty and like have spoken to the people of Dove and everything. Like, it was such a pinch me moment. I was at a shoot somewhere and I had missed a call from from Elle, and I was like, oh shit. So she had sent me a voice note because she couldn't get a hold of me. And she's like, so I just had a meeting with Dove and everyone, and I just want to say that we won. So I was like, what? That's so weird. So I called her and I was like, what do you mean? What did we win? And she's like, we won. And I was like, but what did we win? I don't understand. And she's like, no, we're going to be on magazines and stuff. Like, they're going to put it on magazines. So I was like, oh, that's cool. Like, magazines are cool. I don't mind magazines. Like, that's sick. And that's all I thought, because she was like, yeah, we're just going to be published on like magazines and like online. And I was like, cool, that's sick. No one told me about the billboard. No one warned me. Absolutely nothing. Like, I just get tagged in a post from Girl Gaze or someone. I can't remember who tagged me. And I was like, oh, who? Oh, they probably are putting up the posts. And like, go to the link and I see my photo, but it's on a billboard in Times Square. And I was like, excuse me, what is happening? I think I was literally actually dumbfounded. Like, that was the accurate representation of it, because I looked at this and I didn't jump for joy. I wasn't screaming. I wasn't crying. I literally looked at my phone for the longest time and I was just trying to process what was happening.
Like, is this
And I
real?
was like, yeah, I was like, oh, did they edit this in? Or I was like, what's happening? This is so weird. Like, why would they edit this into the billboard? That, okay, I guess maybe they're hyping it up. Like, I was so confused. And then I got an email from them the night before, so I checked my emails, and they were like, hey, we're going to pay you extra for the usage for the billboards in Times Square and in London. And I was like, wait, what the
And in
fuck is
London?
happening? Yeah, I was like, wait, what? And in London? Like, I was literally like, okay, cool. And like, I was looking at this and I still was like, but surely this is a mistake. Like, this can't be happening. This is so weird. And
Yeah,
then
because I was like in Nat Geo as well and everything.
I was like, it just like kept happening. And every time I saw it anywhere, I was like, what is happening? Like, to this day, I'm like, no way did that happen. Like, that's absolutely crazy. Like, I can't believe this actually happened. But there was video proof and everything, but I'm still like, this didn't happen. This didn't happen. This is so weird. And every time I type it or tell people it, I'm like, I can't believe this happened. Like, I can't fathom that this happened to me. Like, I don't get it.
Especially since it was like this thing where you were like, I'm out, like I'm done. Like, it's just gonna be a hobby from now on.
Yeah, I was feeling like, you know what, maybe photography isn't for me. I just do it as a hobby, or I help my influencer friends now and again with some photos they need. I mean, this was also me after like literally assisting Taryn Francis for like almost a year, and like I just felt so defeated by the industry and photography and as a whole, and I felt defeated by the film industry, and I was like, you know what, fuck it, like I keep hustling, I keep doing these things, but nothing is actually coming to me. So maybe I should shift my focus to somewhere else. And it's fucking crazy, whenever I shift my focus to something else, like these things happen. And I'm like, what is going on? Like,
I
it's
mean, it
as my
is it is
therapist
that
would
old adage, like, you know, of like, yeah, like if you
completely,
love something, let it go. Like,
completely. But it's again, like my therapist says, like her quote of like, oh, this seems like a theme in your life, where it's like, the more I don't focus on a thing, the more that thing gets attention. Like it's like I said earlier, like the more when I stopped focusing on money and money being such an issue for me and such a stressor, I suddenly had more work, more jobs. So like maybe I just need to again ignore photography and maybe I'll get another big campaign. Like who knows? Because this seems to keep happening. But I mean, yeah, after that, I was like, something in me shifted and I was like, I'm a photographer. Like I am a photographer. I'm not kind of a photographer. I'm not, like I guess I do photography. Like I am a photographer. And I think that mind shift also brought on like more work and more people kind of being like, oh shit, like you're the real deal. Cause I walk on set and I'm like, I am a photographer after people assume I'm not, which is also quite funny. The whole Dove campaign made such a huge difference to me in my confidence that I was like, I can literally tackle anything because if a huge brand like that can fully trust me in whatever I do, because they weren't there for the shoots. Like they were just like, just take photos how you usually do. And me and Elle were taking photos, and I recently worked with her again, and we both were like, yo, we were just winging it. Like we kept taking photos and we were like, are we on brief? Is this working?
But
Are we
that's
being too
yeah, but
edgy?
that's
Are
sometimes when
we
you take the
okay?
best stuff.
Completely. So we were taking photos and then we were like, are we doing this correctly? We can't tell. And because the brief was like, keep it every day, chilled. And we were reminiscing on the shoot and we were like, we kept taking photos and we were like, is this too editorial? Is this too fashion? Like, we can't tell. And the fact that, like, literally us taking photos at that public pool on that bench, the fact, like, I still can't believe that that photo was like chosen for the campaign and they ran it another year like in 2020, so that was also crazy, and they paid me again. Like it just also set a standard for me for like working with potential clients in the future. And
And knowing about the usage contracts and stuff like that.
completely, so like now whenever someone reaches out to me, I ask them, where is this going to be used? Is it just social media, or is this going to be printed anywhere? Is this going here and here? It was such a huge learning curve for me and like such a big lesson and an ego boost, I want to say, because I was in such a place of like, I guess I'm not going to be a photographer. I'm not going to be one of, I'm have to give up my dream of being an Annie Leibovitz, being a Ryan McGinley, being a Petra Collins, like, you know what I mean? And
Yeah.
then this happened, and I was like, I guess I can be a Petra Collins. Like, I don't know. Yeah, it was like such a lovely thing to kind of land and literally land in my lap and for me to be like, okay, this is my life now. This is what I do. This is how I earn a living. This is the industry I'm going to be in. And yeah, I'm just taking it day by day.
It is one of those moments though, like, luck is when preparation meets opportunity. You had spent all these
Completely.
years doing this thing, you had an art, you had your style, and even though you might have been insecure in doing the job, like they saw something in the work that you had submitted, which obviously meant, like that they did trust you already. And it's cool now because you trust yourself. It kind of sucks that you had to get like that approval from elsewhere, but that is like how life works, I guess. Is we often, I personally, need it so badly. Someone else just be like, yo, I like that thing. Because you tell yourself, I did good. And until you get those numbers, or until you get someone like who actually says, yeah, you did good, it's so hard to know, like, where you stand, I guess.
Completely. But I think that's better. Like obviously you don't want to constantly beat up on yourself and kind of be like questioning yourself the whole time. But I think it's good to have a bit of that I guess that humble aspect to a
Yeah, it
creative.
makes your work better.
Completely. I don't think I mean I don't walk on every shoot and I think I'm absolutely going to crush this and this is going to be a career defining fucking shoot and people are going to be gagged and like people are going to like absolutely live for this. I don't walk in there. I just kind of go in being like, I get to be on set and I love what I do and I can't believe I get paid for it and I get to work with nice people and like this is super fun. And it's, like all my insecurities do go away when I start taking photos. Like I'll be very stressed and anxious. And then once I start taking photos, I'm like, why am I even stressed or anxious? Like, this is what I was meant to do. This feels easy. This feels like this is this camera is like is an extension of myself. Like, why am I even panicked about it? So I don't panic. I just kind of go at it and I'm like, cool, let's go. I've started like incorporating more lights into my work and not just continuous lighting, but actual like strobe lighting into my work. Because I'm like, you know what, like, let me not shy away from studio lighting and like, let me try and hone and perfect this as well and add it to my repertoire. You know, I can do natural lighting, I can work with ambient or available light. Let me try and work with studio lighting. So that's been really fun. I think as creatives, staying humble and playing around with things and not being afraid to kind of fuck up and be like, oh, well, I guess I don't know how this works or how this is figuring out, but it's fine. I'm just going to play around and do my own thing instead of like more power to people who are very confident in their work. But I think there's a difference between confidence and arrogance. And there's an arrogance I've seen in the industry that I'm kind of like, I feel like this is closing you off because you're not open to learning. Like you coming in with this attitude of like, I am the best, I'm the greatest that's ever been. Don't even tell me anything. Where you can actually learn a lot from people on set or from the model even or the makeup artist or from your own mistakes. But if you are so arrogant and closed
Well, yeah,
off
because everyone has their own experiences.
completely, and I've worked with and I've had assistants who are just like quite arrogant, and I've tried to explain to them in a nice way to be like, don't let your confidence kind of close you off to just you can't know everything. You're constantly learning. And that's the only way for you to be a better creative or an artist. Like you have to be open to being like, I can fuck up at any time, and that's okay. Maybe don't fuck up at work, but if you're experimenting for your own things, then you know, just do your thing. Like the more recent thing I posted, that's a total test shoot for this new project I want to do. And if I wasn't open to like seeing what could happen if I use this light or do this differently, or how would this look without this lighting, then I wouldn't have gotten closer to something I really want to do for myself. You know what I mean?
Yeah, 100%. Like, yeah, being willing to experiment and being willing to fail and just being humble definitely will get you further in life. I know that the internet and certain aspects of things tell you to project confidence and, teach people that if you think you're the best, like that'll get you somewhere in life. And maybe it will, but your work is usually going to suck, unfortunately. Well, actually, fortunately,
Yeah.
because your work deserves to suck if you just constantly think, I'm the best. Um, so I want to
Yeah,
end
it's
this
just
off.
crazy.
So I want to end this off with a question that I've added to the repertoire of the podcast. It's a new thing. You're the third
Oh,
person I'm
cool.
trying it with. So it is. What is one of the biggest mistakes that you ever learned something from, and what did you learn?
Oof. Wow.
I know,
Yikes.
I know, I know, because I don't know how I would ever answer that question. But yeah,
Yeah, that's a really big question. Oh, wow. Wait, can you repeat that?
was this what's one of the biggest mistakes you've made that you learned something from, and what did you learn?
Hmm. There are a
I mean,
few
you've told
coming
us a
up,
lot so
but
far.
yeah, I guess more in a personal aspect or professional aspect.
It's up to you.
Okay, I'll keep it professional because the personal one's a bit too personal.
Fair.
You know what I mean? It's like, ooh, do I want to share this to a really popular podcast? Maybe not.
I appreciate you calling it really popular. I'm glad
And
it
it's
looks that
really
way.
cool. No, it is. It is in my mind. It's very cool. When you asked me, I was like, what is happening? But I think my biggest mistake was ever doubting myself when I failed photography, or make letting other people doubt myself. I think that's been quite a few mistakes that I've done, because there's been multiple times where I have the confidence within myself, or I have this drive and passion for something, and someone will come in and be that small voice of doubt, or they'll affirm it. They'll be like, "Oh, but what if you can't do it? Actually, you're not cut out for the industry. Oh, you're not strong enough to pick up equipment." I still wonder what would have happened if I just like maybe try to reach out to more cinematographers to try and get in some way. And I think that's been my biggest mistake in like in my professional life. And at least now I know that I'm not going to let people who aren't in my circle, or who I don't trust in their opinions, let me doubt myself.
That's such like a good lesson to learn. Like it's something that I remind myself of pretty often. It's like, do you care about this person's opinion? No.
Hmm.
Oh, rad. Cool.
No, completely. Because it's like, I mean, it's like with my lecturer, her being like, well, you're failing because you're just not cut out, and you can't take criticism, and you can't take critique. So how is that going to work in the industry? And then I was kind of like, yeah, you're probably right. Like maybe the industry isn't for me, and I'll just do this as a hobby. Like, fine. And then I go into film, and I have also lecturers telling me, oh yeah, this is why girls can't be in the camera crew. And then I have actual cinematographers tell me, sorry, I don't let girls assist me because you can't pick up gear. And then I think to myself, okay, yeah, maybe that's valid. Maybe that's why my lecturer was saying these things. Maybe that's just how it is. And I shouldn't try and always fight against it and stop being this major feminist. Like, maybe relax. And then,
But you gotta trust your guts.
yeah, that's the thing. I think that's the big lesson, is that like I wasn't trusting my gut enough, and I was taking other people who I thought were, the sound voice of the industry, like I have to
Because they
listen
were
to
in
them, and
positions of
I
authority.
completely, like I saw them, and I was like, well, you're in the industry, you probably tried, so why am I trying so hard against it? And I think that's why, yeah, I think trusting your gut, and thank God we have people who trust their guts way more and are such trailblazers in the industry, and are actually completely defying odds of like who can and who can't be behind, or yeah, mainly just behind the lens and like directing and filming things. It's so amazing to see. And I mean, thank God I've learned that lesson, because every time I've stepped on set and someone assumes I'm either a stylist or the makeup or hair person, is quite ridiculous. So at least now I've had that experience that when I walk on set and someone says that, I don't have that inkling feeling of like, oh, but like
I don't belong.
they're right. I don't belong. Like I don't belong on the set. Like no one sees me as a photographer when they see me. They see me as everything but. But now that I have this experience and I can trust my gut, and I've luckily had that backing, like you said, someone saw something in me at Dove International. So I just carry that with me, where now that when someone stupidly assumes I'm everything but the photographer, I just go to them and I'm like, no, I'm the photographer, check the call sheet again. And then I just walk on set and I do my thing.
uh, cool. I think we're gonna leave it there. I think that's a great
Okay,
place to
sick.
end it. Cool. Thank you so much for this. This was great getting to know you a little bit better. Cause like, yeah, I've followed you online for quite a while, and yeah, I dig your work. So I'm stoked.
I
Like, I
dig your
love
work
that.
too.
Oh, thank you. Like, I dig that I do this. Like, I was saying, well, I don't know if I mentioned it, but like one of the things when it comes to like the whole being mindful and all of that, like even earlier today, I just tweeted, like, it's fucking awesome that I get to just have at least once a week, have a conversation with someone that is meaningful. Like, yeah.
Yeah,
So
and it's
I'm
it's
learning
so
to
lovely what you
appreciate
do,
it.
and you've like interviewed so many people I look up to and like fellow colleagues, and it's so lovely that you get to hear all these perspectives that you probably wouldn't have without this podcast, and your listeners are getting the same benefit as well, which is so sick. And I've been listening to your stuff since the Rose Bonica episode, and I was like, oh, this is such a
Oh,
cool
snap.
local podcast. And I've just been like looking at it, and like I think you've also featured my friend Hannah shown, and it was like so sick. And I listened to
Hannah,
her
yeah, the Hannah
podcast.
episode was great.
Yeah,
Like,
I mean,
I
but like,
also figured the Hallie one might have been one you'd listen to because also, like, when you were
yes,
talking now, like, I was just like, imagine you're saying, you're saying you see other people doing the thing and like they're killing it. And like, what I love about getting to do this podcast is I chat to them and they say the same stuff you did, and they say like,
with
it's so hard. And like, I
yeah,
had all these doubts and like, and that's what I love about getting to do this is just finding out the reality of like, that, yeah, being a creative is a stressful and like something that really plagues on your insecurities.
completely, because I think all creatives just put a little bit of themselves in each thing they do, so it is very scary showing yourself. And I guess the people who come off as very arrogant, they're coming from a very personal, vulnerable space, and the way they project it is to be a little bit more arrogant, which, you know what, fair enough. If you need to do that to get through the day, go for it. And I get like not being like a little bit squeamish and like, oh no, like, do people like my things? Like, doesn't work for everyone. I mean, it's really scary putting yourself out there online, but I mean, I guess that connects everyone being creatives is like, shit, this is like literally a part of me in this post. What are people going to say? What are people going to do? Are they going to laugh at me? Are they going to take me seriously? Do they think I'm an idiot? And it's like you said, like, I think you forget that everyone has these thoughts behind everything they do, because you just see them
Everyone
in
except
like I guess,
Moonchild.
yeah, everyone is like Moonchild because she's a boss ass bitch. So so you see everyone else like Hallie and like these creatives, and you get to know them, and then you realize, oh fuck, they're just like me. They're just as insecure and they don't know what they're doing. This is amazing. It humbles you, it centers you, it makes you feel like, okay, we're all on this journey, we're doing the things, we're just kids playing essentially.
Well, I'm glad you get that vibe because yeah, that's very much what I'm trying to get out of it. So once again,
No,
thank
yeah.
you. And where can people find you on the internet?
Oh, well, you can find me on Instagram. That's where I'm posting more often. You can follow my Twitter if you really want to. I'm not really on there anymore because 2020 is over. And you can find me on YouTube. It's all Olivia Mortimer or Mortimer underscore Olivia. If you can't find that, because there's a few Olivia Mortimers in the UK, so don't get it twisted or
I did notice
confused.
that.
That's not me. It's not me, love. And then yeah, you can just find me on those platforms. That's all. That's the only places I am on.
Okay, when can we expect another vlog?
Oh my god. You know what? For you and the listeners this week.
Oh wow. Okay. But
Yeah.
this
I
this
mean,
is only coming out in like 2 weeks. So
okay, cool. So like I'll edit it in 2 weeks. By the time the people listen to it, it'll be out in this week. Does
perfect.
that make sense? I'm speaking for the future.
Perfect. We'll line it up. Cool.
Cool. You let me know when you're gonna drop it, and I'll drop my vlog.
Perfect. Collab. So yeah, that was Olivia. Fun chat, that one. Really enjoyed it. Dig her perspective on life. Dig the way she approaches things. And yeah, I think there's a lot we can all take from that. A few people have mentioned that whole try not to fucking worry about it thing. Basically the Alfred E. Newman approach to life. And I'm trying to manifest that shit, I'm trying to make that shit happen for myself because, yo, life is, it's a lot sometimes. I'm actually turning 35 on Monday, which has had me being contemplative. And, things would be pretty different if we hadn't gone through a pandemic for the last 2 years. But, hey, it could have been worse. Could have always been worse. And it's probably going to be. So I'm just going to enjoy the fact that I have my health. I definitely don't have any wealth, but I've got a wealth of friends and I've had a wealth of experiences, and yeah, just grateful for all of it, even though part of me is like, yo, getting on in age now. Time to maybe, I don't know, I'm not gonna fucking change anything. It doesn't really matter to me, to be completely honest with you. I'm not someone who stresses too much about, like what society expects. It's more my own pace and my own race and all of that sort of vibe. So yeah, that's where I've been at lately. Just been contemplating. Also been like just loving wrestling again. I know. Bob talking about wrestling, what a surprise. But Cody Rhodes leaving AEW probably to go back to WWE has been like this huge story in wrestling that actually has kind of drowned out that fucking Stone Cold Steve Austin might return for another match, at least one more match. So it's like the Monday Night Wars, which I was too young to really understand what was going on with all of that, and it's happening. It's like, for the longest time now, wrestlers have only gone from WWE to AEW, and this is one of the founders potentially going to WWE. Like, it doesn't necessarily make sense because Cody he left and helped create AEW, and over the years has just taken a lot of digs at WWE. But hey man, he's on a journey that only he knows about or has goals that he wants to achieve, and it's making shit interesting again. That's the thing that's, at least in terms of wrestling, in terms of all of this shit, it's a big deal. It's, for the first time in a long time, like, it actually feels like we are in a wrestling war. It's been like 30 fucking years, 20 odd years, at least 20 years, yeah, since we last had competition. And, apparently, from what I hear, competition makes everything better. So, yeah, I've just been kind of obsessed with that story since Wednesday. I've just been listening to every podcast in the world that discusses it and just trying to check all the dirt sheets all day, seeing if there's any new updates on what's been going on. And it's, it's been a fun little distraction. So that's it. I ain't got much going on other than that. Going temp bowling with some friends to celebrate my birthday, because I grew up in a bowling center. I used to play temp bowling as a kid. My mom worked in a bowling center. She made the South African team and stuff, and was really good. So yeah, it's a tie into my youth, as well as being something that my friends in recovery can do. So as you get older in life, you gotta start thinking about those things. You can't just be turning up all the time, because then, for me personally, half my friends wouldn't be able to make it. So yeah, I'm looking forward to this weekend. I'm also looking forward to my show on Monday on the Other Radio. You can hear that. I think it's at 1 o'clock. It might be at 2 o'clock, but I think it's at 1 o'clock. Just go check the website, theother.radio, and you can hear the next episode of Blowing Smoke with Bob. That's it. That's everything I gotta tell you, other than this bed music you're hearing underneath you was created by Damien Root, as well as that vibey fucking introduction that really sets the tone. So shout outs to Damien Root for that, and then shout outs to the titular titles tier over at patreon.com/almost perfect. Now this is a tier, it is a $10 tier, and it is the top tier over at patreon.com/almost perfect. And at this tier, you get to pick your title right here at Almost Perfect Media. So shout outs to Neil Green, who is the key grip. Shout outs to Vishendra Naidu, who is our spiritual advisor. Shout outs to Riz Ventura, the director of purchasing. Shout out to King Julian. Shout out to Karan Sleman, the Almost Perfect hedge fund manager. Shout out to our Far East correspondent Russell Grant. Shoutouts to Karan Chetty, our assistant to the regional manager. Shoutouts to Kath Jenkin, the inevitable ruler of the universe, and Queen Swifty. Shoutouts to Chief Sales Officer of Subtle Heresies in the Greater Overberg region. That is Rousseau. Shoutouts to Stephen Olivier, our executive producer. And then, of course, shoutouts to Anonymous Benefactor. Lastly, and most importantly, shoutouts to you. Thank you for listening all the way through to the end. And as always, I will catch you on the flip side.